Okay, let's have a look at the rematch game between Albert Becker, an Austrian champion, and Max Euwe. In fact, in this tournament, Karlsbad 1929, which was run by Aaron Nimzovich, Becker did very, very well. He finished on the same points as Max Euwe. Nimzovich, the prizes at the end of the tournament, Nimzovich got 20,000 kronen, Capablanca and Spillman 12,000 kronen each, Rubenstein 8,000 kronen, Becker, Wiedmar and Euwe 5,000 kronen each, and Bogolojbov 3,000 kronen. So you see a lot of the big names, and you might wonder, you know, are these like candidates to play the mighty Alekhine? In fact, it was in this, after the result of this tournament, Nimzovich got some confidence to say, you know, why isn't he challenging Alekhine? In the wiki notes, it says, unfortunately, Alekhine crushed Nimzovich in San Remo 1930 and in Bled 1931 chess tournament. But Alekhine wasn't playing in this particular tournament. It just shows, you know, the candidate challengers. So Max finishing, you know, in fifth, you know, doesn't seem like is going to be such a scary challenger when the World Championship match in 1935 happened with Alexander Alekhine. But let's have a look at this game. So e4 from Albert. He's again with the white pieces, and we get, instead of a Roy Lopez, a highly theoretical Roy Lopez, we get knight c3 here and a four knights variation. So bishop b4, bishop, pardon me, a three knights variation, only three knights. Sorry, bishop b4, yes, the evidence of the fourth knight is not there. So bishop b4, bishop c4, okay, d6. And now the move knight d5 is played here, okay, attacking that bishop, and black just plays knight takes d5. After bishop takes d5, okay, Max over castles here. Then we see c3, white's constructing a centre with d4 or not. No, he plays more quietly with d3 instead of d4. c6. On d4 there, in any case, this pawn's pinned, so black can maybe consider taking there. Okay, so here now, after c6, bishop g5 is played. Queen e8, and the bishop drops back. King h8. And you might think, well, is Max going to really outplay him positionally, Albert, as white here? In this game, is he going to like double rooks or something on the central file? Well, okay, knight a6. Now we see a seemingly, again, all-out move, just going for the king here, knight h4. But it's from a position of greater stability here. There's this nice bishop pointing here. This knight h4 is heading for, you know, a key square, exerting influence on the king side as well as the centre. Knight c5, and now bishop drops back, not minding losing the light square bishop. Knight takes b3, a takes. Okay, so the bishop's now hit from the rook. It moves to d8, and now we see knight f5. Queen e6, and you might think, oh dear, is this another story of black collecting positional trump cards? He has got the two bishops now, and he's got some pressure on the queen side. Well, b4, okay, and black has to do something about a7. He plays b6 here, white castles, and now g6, knight g3, and now Max gets quite ambitious with f5. White takes this now, and he's hemmed in the c8 bishop, and he locks that in with f4, so this looks good positionally to play this sequence. Okay, bishop d7, rook a e1, bishop comes to reinforce e5, and now a nice move, I'll say c4, because it means that this maneuver could point straight across the king through the centre. As long as the attack is played through the centre, white's pieces will not lose too much flexibility like we saw in the previous game on this channel between these guys the previous year. So rook a e8, bishop d2. So the bishop not only attacking but controlling key, you know, central squares. King g8, bishop c3. And if you look here, it is a bit drafty without this g pawn. Okay, queen g6. Now queen d1. is played, which might imply that d4 is, there's an interest in playing d4 because the queen is making its presence felt potentially on the d file. c5, discouraging d4 from white. White takes the opportunity to play b5 here, locking down black's pawn chain a bit, and this bishop looks like a bad bishop on c7, and this bishop not much better here. So much for the bishop pair. Max plays actually e takes f4, and I would guess that white has a good position, but he has to be careful tactically. If we get an engine evaluation here, I would suspect white's got the advantage now because he's got that bishop across the diagonal. So if you look at the positional trump cards emerging here, you know, white's got control of the file, and his bishop's actually better than this bishop. He's actually got the attack plus positional trump cards related to central control, so he hasn't lost the flexibility of his pieces. Black plays d5. Okay, trying to shut down rather this bishop with d4. White takes now on d5. Bishop d8. And now white exchanges a pair of rooks, so there's not going to be two rooks coming down on white's 7th in this game, as one pair of rooks has been exchanged. Knight takes f4, and now this is getting very shaky after this for black's king safety. After this next move, queen d6, this is starting to look quite frightening to invite positively queen h5. I do wonder in this position if the move queen g4 was any better, or does that fail tactically? White has got a significant advantage here. The engine's crying out for the move queen a1 in this position. That's a sneaky move I didn't consider. Queen a1, picking on the poor a pawn, and there's actually no way of defending the a pawn here. And what's worse, if bishop b5 queen a7, maybe that's quite attacking. Let's have a look what's going on here. Queen h7, I think there might be a threat now of something terrible. Let's see, h6, rook f3. So where rook g3 is a major threat. Okay, so queen a1 does carry with it not just queen a7 to get onto this row, but also rook f3 to g3. So that's interesting that queen g4 wasn't chosen, maybe because of this queen a1. So queen d6, but queen h5 looks really dangerous now. But this bishop is challenged on the diagonal. But again, this rook lift here, under much better circumstances than the previous game we saw. This rook lift is actually terrible implications for black's king safety. But note also, this bishop's hemmed in by its own pawn. So white's, positional play before is his position strong enough to go for the attack. It's like the Steinitz principle, go for the attack when you've got the advantage, a positional advantage. In the previous game, because he didn't have the positional advantage of the opponent not only made him able to defend, just counter-attack right at the right time, timely counter-attack, so his attack was actually faster, Max's in the previous game we saw. But here, white's attack looks pretty quick. Black hasn't got an attack. In fact, what attack does black have? So he takes on c3, and he plays queen e5, as though, queen e1 is looking dangerous, but This is an outright blunder, it turns out, in this position. Just show you what happened. Check, king f8, and can you see a white play? And just take it one more move forward from here. Actually, check, and black has to play. He doesn't really want to play king f7 here. He plays king e7. Now, if I give you 10 seconds here, white play and win material. So starting from now. Okay, Albert must be happy. Finally, he can make something of his attack. He plays knight g6 check here. Forking king and queen, forcing hg, and we have the other move now, rook e3. the rook on the third is doing damage on that third rank. It's winning the queen. And after this, it looks as though, yeah, black is playing on a few moves with rook and bishop, but I don't think they can really coordinate against the queen here. So this is breaking up black's pawn chain, and this queen is very easy to move compared to the rook and bishop to coordinate. The rook and bishop is a much harder task, and the pawn comes along now to help the queen. And the other one, if it takes queen f6, it's all over really. Check here, and black resigned in this position. It looks as though, for example, d7 is on the cards. If king f7, d7, winning more material. So Albert got his revenge from the 1928 encounter, but it was based more firmly on positional trump cards. Let's just check this out again. But white did volunteer his light square bishop, which you might think is a curious concession, rather than tucking it away on c2. You might expect the sort of more standard Roy Lopez approach to tuck the bishop away, then slowly open the centre later with d4, trying to liberate the bishop later. But on the other hand, such an approach might allow something like knight e6. That knight's always going to be a pain in this sort of position. So I don't know, getting rid of that knight, playing for this position where he's got a-file pressure. And it actually turns out that the a pawn is actually a tactical liability here, in many variations. This f5 is a bit curious because it did lock in basically the light square bishop. I'm not entirely convinced this is the right approach for black to open up the bishops. Let's just check this position. f5 gives white a slight, technically the engine sensing a slight increase in white's advantage here. I think basically that bishop's been locked in its own pawn chain. Okay, so basically, and this bishop is now improving very nicely along this diagonal. c4 is also instrumental in locking down these pawns on dark squares. So this is now really just improving positionally for white here. If black did allow d4 and didn't play c5, then possibly, just something like d5 is very on e4, d5. Let's actually check that out. Was c5 actually necessary? Just for those curious about this lockdown of d4, we'll say rook e7. Maybe even d4 is not the main idea. actually, there's other moves here. I'm not even sure d4 does anything, just e4 now. I think d5 is not so harmful. Okay, even b5 apparently. And this isn't so harmful for black. So maybe a better idea here, if black had played a move like rook e7, let's see, rook f3, let's see, rook g7. So e5 is a bit of a problem here, and if black doubles here, then probably f5 might be a bit of a problem. Takes, if he takes here, knight takes f5. Alright, there's a tactical idea, rook g3. So it seems also black's king is a bit airy here on that g file. So it's not just slightly loose pawns in the center. Okay, so we saw the move c5. But this lockdown actually implies a7 as a critical weakness in some lines for queen a1 if black's not careful. And in the game continuation, especially with the bishop being lured away to d8 now, it's no longer bishop b8 as a resource, then actually queen a1 can be quite dangerous. But no, in this position, queen g4 wasn't played. Making that queen a1 resource a bit academic now, because it's much tastier just to get the queen in on h5. Okay, and then there's still this dangerous rook maneuver to bring in to support the queen and this bishop and this attacking knight. So basically all of white's pieces working very well as a team here, as an attacking unit. and coming in here, doesn't mind losing the dark square bishop. So Albert Becker, maybe, you know, one of the strongest players of the time. He did very well in this Karlsbad tournament, and, you know, knocking out Max with this attacking game. So okay, you could argue, well, you know, sometimes his play is a bit risky going for the attack. It's a bit one-dimensional, but in this game it did pay off. Just to give a fairer picture here. Okay. Comments or questions on YouTube? Thanks very much.